If anyone wills to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker. Give ear to my words, O Lord.
Understand my meditation.
Attend to the voice of my cry, my King and my God.
For to thee I pray.
I come into thy house in the multitude of thy mercy.
In thy ear I worship toward the temple of thy holiness.
O Lord, we pray thee, increase our faith. Help us deny ourselves and take up our cross and follow thee. Amen.
Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
O Lord, forgive us our trespasses,
As we forgive those who trespass against us.
Our recitation is number 101. It comes from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verses 24 to 26.
And Jesus said to his disciples, If anyone wills to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wills to save his soul shall lose it, but whoever shall lose his soul for my sake shall find it. For what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world, but cast away his soul? Or what shall a man give in exchange for his soul?
evening, the Lord gave his 12 disciples the first Holy Supper. He gave them the bread and wine, and he said, "Do this to remember me." Now that was a little hint that Jesus wasn't going to be with them very much longer, and so they would take the Holy Supper to remember him by. And then Jesus said, "All of you will be offended in me this night. This very night, you're not going to believe in me." And the disciples were very surprised that Jesus would say that. Listen what the Lord said to Simon Peter and how Peter answered him. Hear the word of the Lord in the Gospel of Luke chapter 22. And the Lord said, "Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has asked for all of you to sift you all as wheat. But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith may not fail. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brothers." And he said to him, "Lord, I am prepared to go with thee, both into prison and to death." And he told him, "I say to thee, Peter, the rooster shall not crow today before thou hast denied that thou knowest me 3 times. So in this part of the story, Peter was sure that he would never do that he would follow the Lord wherever the Lord went. But did he? Let's read a little farther on in the story. And taking Jesus, they led him away and led him into the house of the chief priest. And Peter followed afar off. And when they had lit a fire in the midst of the courtyard and had sat down together, Peter sat in the midst of them. But a certain maid, seeing him as he sat by the light and gazing at him, said, "This man also was with him." And he denied him, saying, "Woman, I do not know him." And after a very little while, another, seeing him, declared, "Thou art also of them." But Peter said, "Man, I am not." And after the space of about 1 hour, another strongly affirmed, saying, "In truth, this man also was with him, for he also is a Galilean." And Peter said, "Man, I do not know what thou sayest." And immediately, while he yet spoke, the cock crowed. And the Lord turning looked at Peter. And Peter remembered the word of the Lord, when he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows, thou shalt deny me 3 times." And Peter went out and wept bitterly. Let's listen also to something the Lord teaches us about the spiritual sense of this story. He who is acquainted with the internal sense of the word is able to know what is involved in Peter's denying the Lord 3 times before the rooster crowed twice. For by Peter was represented the faith of the church, or what is the same, the church as to faith. By the time when the rooster crowed was signified the last state of the church. This time is also called cock crowing. By the denial 3 times was signified full and complete denial of the Lord in the end of the church. For the Lord is denied when there is no longer any faith, and there is no faith when there is no longer any charity. 3 signifies what is full and complete. And from this it was said that he would deny 3 times. This was done in twilight, when morning was about to come. And cock crowing and twilight before morning are the same. Here end our lessons. Blessed are those who hear the word of God and keep it. Amen. What happened in this story? The chief priests and the captains of the temple and the elders, the important people, came and arrested Jesus. They tied his hands behind his back and marched him off to their palace. And there, they made fun of him, and they hit him with sticks. And Peter followed behind, and he saw and heard while they were doing this to Jesus. And this did not make any sense to Peter. Peter was sure that Jesus had come to be the King of the Jews, to be a king in this world. He didn't know that Jesus is God. He thought he was a king. And he had seen Jesus calm the storm and bring people back to life who had died and do so many wonderful things. But Jesus wasn't doing anything to protect himself from these horrible people. And so this didn't make any sense to Peter. Why was this happening? And then Peter must have thought, well, if they will do that to Jesus, if they will beat him up like that, will they do that to me too? And so, when a girl came along and said, this man also, according to Peter, was one of them, being one of Jesus' disciples, he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then a man came along and said, you were one of his disciples. You are one of his disciples. And again, Peter said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not one of his disciples. And then an hour later, when they were sitting around the fire talking, another man said, surely you are one of his disciples, because you are a Galilean like Jesus, and I can tell by your accent. And again, Peter said, I don't know this man. And what happened while he was saying those words? The rooster crowed. The rooster crowed, and Jesus turned and looked at Peter. And then Peter remembered that Jesus had said, before the rooster crows, you will deny that you know me. You say you don't know me 3 times. When Peter thought about that, he went out and wept bitterly. He was so sad and so ashamed of himself. He thought of Jesus as his best friend, and he had just said he didn't know him 3 times. So that was a very sad time for Peter. But notice how the story begins. The story begins by Jesus saying to Simon, he said, Simon, Simon, Satan has desired all of you to sift you as wheat, saying the evil spirits want to get their clutches on you and sift you as wheat. But, Simon, I have prayed for you so that your faith may not fail. And when you are converted, which means when you have turned back to me, strengthen your brothers. I have an important job for you to do, strengthen your brothers. So now this shows us that the Lord knows all things that are going to happen. He knew that all the disciples were going to be offended, and most of them were going to run away when he was arrested. He knew that Simon was going to deny him 3 times, but still he called them as his disciples. And he also knew that Simon would turn back to him and would be able to strengthen his brothers. So the Lord knew that Satan desires to sift us as wheat. What does that mean? In ancient times, when they harvested wheat, they would cut the plants down, and the wheat would be on the ground with its husks still wrapping around the wheat seeds, the good wheat seeds, because that's where they grow. And the husks are called the chaff. And so they would take sticks and flails, and they would beat the wheat, and they would knock the chaff, the husks off. Then they would take shovels and throw the wheat up in the air, and some of their friends would hold big fans and blow it as it fell down again, and the light chaff, the husks, would blow away because they're like feathers, and the wheat seeds, which are heavy, would fall to the ground, and after a while, they would have pretty pure wheat. What does it mean that Satan wants to sift us as wheat? Well, in the spiritual sense, the wheat represents a good life, someone who follows the Lord's commandments and strengthens his brothers, does things to help other people. And the wonderful thing about that is, when we are helping other people, it also helps us. Love from the Lord comes into us, and it's very satisfying, like we're being fed. And so that's like having good wheat to eat. But Satan doesn't want us to have good wheat. He wants us to starve. He wants us to throw the wheat away and have nothing but chaff. That's like having the words of religion, but no good life. That's like denying the Lord. That's what Satan wants. Now the Lord knows that Satan, the evil spirits, are going to attack us in this way, so what does the Lord do? He prepares us. He says, Satan is going to attack you in this way. And I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back to me, strengthen your brothers. The Lord tells us that. So now we can see how this happens in the story for Peter. Because Peter, when he saw what he had done, he was very sad. But just 3 days later, when he saw that Jesus had risen, and he finally figured out that Jesus is God, he never denied Jesus ever again. And he was a strong leader for the early Christian church. He did strengthen his brothers. And in a similar way, even though we sometimes turn away from the Lord and deny him, the Lord can make use of those attacks of evil spirits to make us stronger. Because then we can realize, well, what have I done? And we can turn back to the Lord even more than we had before. So do we sometimes deny the Lord? Do we sometimes do that? Are there some times when we feel kind of embarrassed or even ashamed or afraid to admit that we believe in the Lord? It's just not cool. Or even worse, are there times when we pretend we've never heard of what Jesus taught us about how to live? We're paying no attention to his commandments in the way we're actually doing. Problem is, if we get into a habit of disregarding the Lord's commandments, we get into a habit of being willing to be cruel, being willing to be dishonest and steal things from people, being unclean and telling lies when we know perfectly well what the truth is. After a while, we won't believe in the Lord. That's what Peter's denying the Lord 3 times represents. It means a full and complete denial of the Lord. And the Lord teaches us, where there is no life of charity, there is no faith in the Lord. But on the other hand, if we notice, we are paying attention to the times when we have denied the Lord, and we're sad about that, like Peter was. When we turn back, we are converted to the Lord, and we ask him, we pray to him, please help me not do that again. The Lord will strengthen us. He will teach us to deny ourselves instead of denying him. He will teach us to say no to the evil spirits instead of saying no to him. He will strengthen us, and he will give us a good job to do of strengthening our brothers. And when we do that, the Lord will also strengthen us too. Amen. Let us pray. I will exalt thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up, and hast not made my enemies glad over me. O Lord my God, I cried out to thee, and thou hast healed me. O Lord, thou hast brought up my soul from hell. Thou hast made me live from among those who go down to the pit. Sing psalms to the Lord, O ye his merciful ones, and make confession for the remembrance of his holiness. For there is a moment in his anger, but life is in his good pleasure. In the evening, weeping may pass the night, but in the morning there is singing aloud. Amen. Yes, I come quickly. Amen.
Yes, come, Lord Jesus.
May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you all. Amen.
Hallelujah, give thanks to the risen Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, give praise to his name. Spread the good news o'er all the earth. Jesus our Lord is glorified. Hallelujah, hallelujah, give thanks to the risen Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, give praise to his name. Oh, let us praise the living God. Joyfully sing to our Savior. Hallelujah, hallelujah, give thanks to the risen Lord. Hallelujah, hallelujah, give praise to his name.